comes. Here it comes. And we are live, my brother.
Good morning, Facebook friends. My name is Lane Bean. I'm a resident of Fort Worth, Texas. I'm a 28-year retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Air Force Reserves. I'm a former F-16 pilot, and I'm bringing to you today something I'm very excited about, a conversation with my good friend and someone that I admire greatly, a business mentor and associate, my good friend, Tommy Breedlove. Today, we're going to talk to you about something that I think is critical to success in life and is critical to success in business. And Tommy may be an outstanding, or he is an outstanding example of both living this lifestyle from both sides of the observation business and then watching other people be successful too. The title of our talk today is Business Ethics and Developing Personal Character in Today's Modern Global Economy. Tommy is my good friend. I've known him for quite a while. I consider him a very close associate. I consider him a trusted business advisor, and we speak very often. Tommy is the USA Today best-selling author of one of my favorite books. That book's called Legendary, and it was just recently put on the top of the list. I believe that was just a couple of weeks ago where it hit the top there. Also Wall Street Journal. So I would advise you get that book and read it. It'd be a lot of good points, and we'll talk about some of those things coming up here too. Tommy leads Legendary Leadership and several other enterprises underneath that, but helps coach me and helps coach other professionals and executives in getting all of these pieces that are lined up correctly. And so today's piece that we're going to talk about, maybe the foundation. One quick note on that is I'm in real estate. I'm a real estate developer, and we're developing a project right now in Austin. One of the most important things that you take for granted, but is which is the start of any project, is the foundation. And today, that's the exact the example that I'd like to bring to our attention, because we're talking about the foundation of life success, and that is ethics, character, doing the right thing. And Tommy's going to share with us a lot of great examples. Tommy, what did I miss on your biography that you need to explain out or need to add to?
Brother, the only thing you've missed is that amazing T-shirt you're wearing that you and I spent 7 or 8 days in Yellowstone National Park walking and hiking up and down mountains that seemed like 2 million miles. I think it was about 70 miles. But we had an amazing adventure, you, me, and your son, and a guide through the back, and that shirt represents that. And you can't describe the relationships, the events, the memories, and just the beauty of nature and God when you're out in something like that, especially with good friends. So that's the only thing you miss is that great T-shirt you're wearing right there, the memory that brings back all that Yellowstone. It's beautiful.
Tommy, you want to take about 30 seconds and explain to your audience how you started and the condition that you started. What do you think we walked? Maybe 100 miles over a 6-day period? Is that about what we did with about a 40-pound pack on? So difficult. How did you start that? How was the condition of your feet? And would you say that your shoes and feet are important to walk that far?
So I think the condition of your feet and your shoes are extremely important when you walk that far. And my wife and I, before you and your son got there, we decided to hike a mountain in Bozeman, Montana. That was about 11-mile, pretty steep peak. I think at the top it was 10 or 11,000 feet, about 11 miles total. Hadn't broken in my shoes, hadn't broken in my socks. And so basically your son made the great analogy that it was like going into the Masters and hitting 2 million golf balls the week before. And so my feet were just covered in pepperoni-sized blisters for the entire 7-day hike. And so I was constantly putting padding on them, putting stuff on them, putting glue on them. But we made it through, man. We just suffered, and it was pretty ugly and nasty. We got some good pictures of it.
Did you say you still have scars on the back of your heels from that?
I do on one of my feet. It looks like it'll be gone this year, but I carried scars for a couple years.
Yeah, right on.
I love it. I love it, brother.
Well, we spent a lot of time, and I encourage everybody in the audience today to take this opportunity, when we're in kind of unusual situations with this lockdown and other things, and really reconnect with your friends and your associates and your family, because there were so many. We could literally talk for hours and hours and hours about the fun things we talked about, and the mosquitoes, and we got run off a cliff by a horse. I mean, there's just over and over and over funny things. But this is what I want to tell the audience. Sometimes life throws us a curveball, like, stay at home. I'm working here and Tommy's working out of his office, and probably the people that are on your broadcast or listening to the audience today, they're probably working out of their home too. And so it's really a curveball, but use every chance and make something great out of it, and connect with your family, brothers, sisters, or friends or associates, like Tommy and I have connected, and we do it regularly, but other people as well. So that was a challenge that I'll give to your audience today. Well, anyway, hey, Tommy, let's quit talking about what we did in the past. Let's talk about how we can help your audience, and we can help my audience, and we can help each other out today. So one of the things that we've been mentioning a lot is business ethics and personal character. And Tommy, your story is maybe one of the most interesting stories of not just well thought out and narrated explanations of, but can you give us a little bit of background about why are you a businessman, Tommy? Do you have any credibility in the business world, and how does that come about? Because not all the people that are in my audience know you. What is your credentials in the business world, and what gives you any credibility whatsoever to be talking about business ethics?
Well, what gives me credit to talk about business ethics is the fact that I had none for 36 years. Not that's actually a joke. I had a lot of ethics, but made some really big mistakes in my past, especially on the personal side. But after graduating the University of Georgia, with an accounting degree. I went and worked for Deloitte and Touche at the time, which was, I think now it is the largest financial consulting and public accounting firm in the world. But at the time, it was certainly one of the top five. And so I spent almost 20 years. I was recruited out of there to two or three other firms, spent 20 years in public accounting, mergers and acquisitions, and that's fancy speak for buying and selling companies, financial laws, public accounting, and all things business operational and cash flow efficiencies. And so I did that for 20 years. I actually made it at the very end of my career before walking away when I went through a huge, we're going to talk about ethics today. At age 36, I went through a huge ethical, spiritual, emotional, mental transformation to just figure out who I was, what I stood for, where I was going, and who was coming with me. And when I changed my mindset from take and competition and shiny things and the next big bonus and chasing, I had the corner office and I was at a big firm in Southeast regional United States called, it doesn't matter what it's called, but it was a big firm. It wasn't Deloitte. I was recruited out of there. But what was cool about that, when I actually started living my life with integrity, I'm talking about my personal life, how I led my relationships, how I led my family, how I led my clients, how I led my team. And at the time, I was the international practice leader for one of the largest firms in the Southeast United States. The most amazing thing happened to me. My network 10x, my relationship with my wife 100x, my friends and my family. We went from this competition didn't like me very much to loving me so much. And then I went from one of the most disliked people in the firm to one of the most beloved, and eventually was promoted to senior partner, equity partner, and then elected to the board of directors at 39 years old. Just by a major transformation. And you said something very powerful, just by standing on a sturdy foundation. I figured out who I was, what I stood for, and where I was going. And what's interesting, and you said this, Lane, and then I'll turn it back over to you. So many of us, we put so much validation in our respect, our job title, our car, the way people feel about us, our career, sometimes our family, and this is the sad one. All of those things, every single one of those things can be taken away from us at the blink of an eye. And so if you put all of who you are and what you are into what you do, how much you make, and your title, and what others see you as, and you're not standing on a rock hard, solid foundation of your core values, of your principle, of your personal mission statement, it's not if life happens, it's when. And when those things are taken away from you, you're standing on a shaky foundation. And so for me, I just saw this massive transformation in my happiness, my peace of mind, my leadership, my money, my network, all at the age of 36, when I just shifted my mindset and did the hard work to really figure out who I was and what I stood for. And so I guess that gives me, I had 20 plus years in, in the financial consulting world, and then 8 years now in personal coaching, executive coaching, running mastermind treats, and doing a lot of public speaking. So I'm about 28 years into this big business world, and I absolutely love it, man.
Tommy, wow. Now I see why. Was it the USA Today and the Wall Street Journal you're a best-selling author? That's book one,
Indeed,
right?
brother.
You just wrote
It's
book
book
two.
one. It's book one.
Um,
Shoot for the New York Times. If your New York Times are listening, read the book, baby.
I think what you just said there in the last 3 minutes is probably book two, or it's your addition to that one. I wrote down so many notes there, Tommy. It's going to be hard for me to recollect that. But let me kind of go back a little bit there, because maybe some of your audience doesn't know how you started in your firm. And didn't you start? I mean, I know you're a certified public accountant, but didn't you start kind of at the lowest possible level in the firm, and then over a short period of time, you really identified success as firm success, and then climbed your way up the ladder? I mean, 36 as a young vice president or a young director, wasn't that quite unusual to get to that level of success that early?
Yeah, 36 years. The title that I had that I was promoted to was principal, and that's basically a junior partner or an associate partner. It's pretty young to reach that. And the way I did that is first of all, I worked like there's no other. I come from humble beginnings, and so I was the first person to graduate from college. So I wasn't going to ruin this opportunity. And I honestly thought reaching the top of the mountaintop in business and in success and money and title would fill that void I had inside. Now, let me be clear. I think all of those things are worthy. I think they're worth pursuing. I still pursue them this day. Anybody that says money is not important, run from them. They're broke. And so I'm not taking away the need for people like you and I. I mean, my client base, my friends, my network, we're all ambitious, driven people. It's just I don't want to do it at the cost of everything, which I almost did. And so I was that guy that who turns the lights off last wins. I was gifted with the I could make very technical things very simple to understand. So I was good at sales, good at business development, and I was good at the craft. I mean, I spent somewhere between, on any given week, 60 to 80 hours a week for almost 15, 16 years working the craft of public accounting, financial consulting, and mergers and acquisitions. So I was very, very good at it. What I didn't work on was me. What I didn't work on was my marriage. What I didn't work on was my self-confidence and self-respect. What I didn't work on is unconditional love for myself. And I know those things are a little bit woo-woo, but for me, it almost meant life or death. It almost meant losing my job. It almost meant losing my career. It almost meant losing my life, and ultimately my wife at the same time. And so there I was at 36 years old, a principal in the firm, probably doing some big financial audit or some huge deal 2 weeks prior. And then when the money, the power, the prestige didn't fill me up, I turned to the dark side. And so that looked a lot of different ways. But after a 3-day just madness binge with a few of my network buddies, I ended up waking up in a ditch looking at the blue sky, thinking, my God, how did I get here? And this is not the life or the person I want to be. Just raging party, or, you've seen Wolf of Wall Street and you've seen all these other shows like Mad Men. That's what I was living. And it almost cost me everything. And I said, enough is enough. And that's when I made me my full-time job, and not my job my full-time job. And then the benefits I saw professionally, personally, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and ultimately financially were 10x once I started working on me full-time.
Right on, Tommy. That's a beautiful story, man. And I'm so fortunate, and so is the audience here, to benefit from that story. Let me ask you this question, Tommy, because you're what most people would say in business, right? Because we're talking today about business ethics, and I think sometimes we talk about business success or business results, and we like to think that those two things go hand in hand, but oftentimes they don't, right? So we talk about business success, and we probably prioritize that above business ethics. And so it sounds like when you were 36, you were as successful, or maybe probably well above success standards of what most people were doing. How did you at that point define success? I mean, you were pursuing something, you had gotten there, And how did you define I'm successful prior
So
to your 36 days?
the truth is, I think, and I don't know because I didn't do the deep work back then that I do now, where I would actually sit down and define success, right? And I think so many of us don't know what success ultimately means for them. And we talk about that at length in my book, Legendary. What does success look like for you? Because it doesn't look the same for everybody. But the way I was acting and my intentions and my actions were showing that working extremely hard, I think ultimately for me was to become a shareholder of the firm, a owner of the large firm, and I did that. I think it was ultimately leading a major part of the practice, international practice leader. I checked that box. And ultimately, I was elected to the board of directors, which is the top seat of the entire firm, which we led the CEO. I never really wanted to be the CEO of the firm because I'm not an administrator. That's a whole different type of role. I love the actual running the practice, running the people, and ultimately selling the international practice. So that's how I define success, I believe, but I really didn't know. But the problem is I was doing that at the expense of everything else. And if I would define success now, I would think success for me is about leaving a legacy. It's about impact. It's about serving with purpose, but also being the same person at home than I am at work, being the same man behind closed doors that I am in front of clients or on a stage or having this conversation. To me, it's about cultivating peace of mind and joy and happiness in life, but not at the expense of my ambition or drive. I'm not a proponent of work-life balance. I actually don't believe in it. I think we prioritize and reprioritize depending on what season we are in life and what we need to focus on. But for me, I think I didn't have a holistic version of what happiness was. And when the money, the title, the power, prestige didn't light me up because those are external validations. I turned to all the other external validations, which ultimately almost cost me everything.
So let me see if I understood that correct, Tommy. You worked like you were working in a coal mine. You worked all the time. You put your shoulder to the task at hand, and then you just outwork people. You had an intense motivation because of your upbringing and because of some disadvantaged things you experienced in the past, and you wanted to fill that hollowness with success. And you identified success as climbing the corporate ladder, getting results, getting a higher paycheck, hanging around with people that you at the time thought were influential, and materialism. Is that a summary?
Well, I thought they were influential. I thought they had power. I thought they were important, and how wrong I was. But I think I was also this. I think there was an anger inside of me. I'll show you because of certain ways, and on some level, when I show you, like, have my fist in the air, and I'll prove all you guys wrong. I believe if I had to summarize what that actually is, it's a victim mentality. And if you'd have told me I had a victim mentality pre 36, you and I'd have fought the street, man, because I was that alpha male, with the shiny suit and cufflinks. But it was. I was letting certain things, certain mistakes I had made, I was letting certain things that had been done to me as a young man, certain mistakes that I had done to other people anchor me down and fill me with rage and anger. When I was a young man, we would deal with that in certain ways. But as a professional man in a business suit, doing big deals, you handle it in a different way. And that's competition, beating your competition, out hustling them. And all of that's fine and good, but not at the expense of your happiness, at your relationship, at your friendships, at your peace of mind, at your spiritual and emotional well-being. And I didn't have any of that. And so for me, once at 36, when I knew that this wasn't going to work and I literally almost lost everything, I knew I had to set myself on a very sturdy foundation because I had not been taught that. And so that's when I started being, taking off the tough guy, important guy, powerful guy, can't ask for help guy mask, and just really just started being me, brother. And that's when ultimate professional, financial, and personal success actually happened in my life.
Well, and Tommy, do you think that that one pivotal moment that you're describing was that literally a crossroad where you got to that point and you made a decision, or was it something that you had seen coming and this just was the impetus? Some situation was the impetus of this big
That's
life.
a great question. I think it was that moment. But I think it was a culmination of there was this deep down, we can call it that little boy from where I grew up that wanted to be seen, heard, or loved. I know that's a little woo woo for a business audience, but it's kind of true. I think it was a combination of that kid saying, "Hey, man, this is not what I was wanting to be when I grew up," and I think it was a matter I knew I wasn't living the life that I knew I could with integrity and purpose and intention and impact. And I think it was also a God moment where I'm just laying there in that ditch, looking up at a blue, wondering where my car was, looking at that blue sky, thinking, man, I really want to live. I really want to make impact. I really don't want to hurt myself or other people. And I just made the intention and attention and took action to fix it. And I did. And over the following 3 years, and to this day, I'm 8 years, almost, no, it's almost 10 years later. I work on myself everything single day. The fortress, and you know what I'm talking about, because Lane, I know you do the work. Physical fortress, mental fortress, spiritual fortress, emotional fortress, so that then we can go lead our clients, our stages, our families, our people, and we can inspire. And we also, you and I, we're in a group together. We hold each other accountable to our core values and principles. And when we get off the track, we get kicked in the face.
Right on, Tommy. So do you think that culture or that attitude that you mentioned, you mentioned a couple things there, but you said victimization, um, feeling some issues that you had with self-esteem. Do you think that's fairly common in the executive officers and principals of these large companies, or maybe just across the whole culture? So a lot of people, do you think that they have the same symptoms that you have, lack of purpose prior to being 36 or prior to that 36-year point?
I do actually, and I don't want to make a blanket statement because not everybody's that way. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody in Wall Street or at banks or in advertising firms or insurance or lawyers or accountants, lack. I do think, I think we value, I think men crave, I'm going to talk about men for a second because that's, on stage, I have a universal message, but my one-on-one coaching is mostly with executive males in the relationship mindset and business space because of my background. Um, I can't tell you, it's now hundreds of men that come into my office. They all struggle in their relationships. They all struggle with their mindset. On some level, there's a level of narcissism in all of us, but at the end of the day, that narcissist or that extreme ego is all lack of confidence. It's all arrogance, is really low self-esteem at the end of the day. And so what I would hope for is I see it time and time again as we compromise everything. We want the big house, fancy car, beautiful wife and all that stuff because we think that'll make us happy. And then we get there and we've compromised everything for it. And we look around, we're in an empty house and nobody loves us. And so time and time again, I see this behavior. And I think on some level, we crave respect. We love the competition. We love the thrill of it. We love business, but there's got to be a point to where we've got to build that emotional, mental, and spiritual fortress so that we don't compromise our friends, family, loved ones at the expense of just more, 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 because more is we're never going to get to more, and we're never going to get to win. When I get there, then I'll focus on my family. When I have this, then I'll focus on my friends. We're never going to get there. And so I see it time and time again. It's almost become statistical now. It used to be anecdotal, but now it's statistical. I think in the professional world, us ambitious people, I think we do. And what I give these ambitious alphas, for lack of a better word, is I give them the gift of going second. They like to wear the armor and poise, and they're going to sit on that white horse till they die. And when they hear my story and they hear me be raw, honest, authentic, it gives them permission to do the same. And then we can do the deep work to make them even more successful professionally, personally, in their relationships and with their family. So I wouldn't say everyone. I'd say a large percentage, brother.
And I would agree with that. I think we're all challenged with that, Tommy. And I don't think it's something that you cure. It's something that you therapeutic, especially in today's COVID. We don't have a vaccination from egotism, or it's a therapeutic. We have to take the medicine every day. And some of the things you mentioned there, humility, gratitude, doing disciplined self-analysis and just being self-aware, that's your daily medicine to avoid the fall. So Tommy, before we go a little bit more into tactical, I want to ask you a question, man. And this is going to be maybe the most important thing that I'm going to ask you. and this is going to be a hard question for you to answer. So now, Tommy, you told me that your life kind of got back on track when you were 36 or 37 years old. And at some point prior to that, 21, 22, it doesn't really matter, but maybe it was starting to go off track, right? So now, Tommy, you're a little older than 36. So this is the question that I want to ask you, and I want our audience to know, what advice what are you, 44 now, Tommy? What's your age? 44.
46, brother.
46, okay. You look a day over 44. So what would the 46-year-old Tommy Breedlove give advice to the 19-year-old Tommy Breedlove, or whenever that turn point was where you started to get off track and you started to, you recognize looking back, there were maybe 2 or 3 times where somebody could have given you advice, and now that somebody is the perfect person because it's the 46-year-old Tommy Breedlove sitting there in your office with all of this hindsight. What advice would you give the young man, Tommy Breedlove?
What I would say is this. I would say, stop living your story and start living your life by participating in your own rescue and investing in yourself. So many of us will invest in our friends, the stock market, our businesses, our careers, people we don't know, our network, which our network's important, but we leave the most important person out. And so much, we all struggle with the stories we tell ourselves. I call it the Tommy go round, Ike, that voice in our head. And it's all a combination of our mistakes, things that were done to us, things that we did, things that we don't want anybody to know. And I would say, stop living your story, and that's just a story, and start living your life. You've got to participate in your own rescue. There's no magic pill to this game of life. There's no quick, easy fix. There's nobody coming on a white horse to save you. And you've got to do that by investing in yourself. And I'm talking about being better in all phases of your life: physically, business, financially, professionally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And that's what I teach. That's what I preach. That's what you said it every day. I'll never get there either. I am certain no legend. That's why I wrote the book Legendary. Legendary is a title given to us by society for leaving it either worse than we found it or better than we found it, right? You can be a really good bad legend or a good legend. And so for me, I wish I wouldn't have waited till 36. I'm actually working with a 71-year-old now. It's been so cool. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to write the ending to your own story. And the only way to do that is to live your life and not your story. Got 2 guys in their 60s, got some guys in their 20s and 30s and 40s. This is one-on-one, right? And in my masterminds. But it's never too late. And that's what I would say is double down and invest in yourself. It'll be the best investment you ever make. Reading, coaches, mentoring, masterminds, the same thing you and I do. Go out and do it. Get some guidance and let's just go crush it. And the only way to do that is you got to choose to do it.
That's great advice, Tommy. So we're a little bit more than halfway through this kind of talk that I'd like to have, and so the first part I think can kind of be summarized by saying, have a purpose, understand what your goals are, realize maybe that there may be some deficiencies in your own self-esteem, and just work on that. That's kind of what I wrapped up in that first part of kind of a discussion of success in the first part of your life. So what I'd like to do now, Tom, is talk a little bit more tactically, because I know that sometimes these concepts of business ethics and character and gratitude, I mean, they're just they're so broad and they're so important words. It's kind of hard to take that and now get some actual details with those. But you had mentioned a couple of things that after you had started doing these things, or you made some changes, your business results 10x'd, your relationship with Heather 100x'd. And then it sounds like that you may be focused more on significance instead of success. I like to think of a formula of a fraction, with the denominator and the numerator, and it sounds like you had success over significance. And then at some point you reverted that and you put significance over success, and your fraction went off the table. It just, everything started to multiply. So what did you, and I'm saying tactically, did you read 5 minutes of self-development a day? Did you exercise more? Because you said you 10x'd your business, you 100x'd your marriage, you got in better physical shape and mental health. So give me some examples, or give some other folks some examples of, hey, start with better nutrition. Start with talking to your wife or kids for 10 minutes a day. Can you help me understand how to do that as well as you did?
So, without getting too granular, here's the first thing I would say is if you find yourself unhappy, unfulfilled, regardless of where you are, if you're struggling financially or business or your career, or you've hit some level of success in your business career, but you still find yourself looking up the stars and asking, why am I here? Or when you're sitting around a campfire, like there's got to be something more to life. The thing that you're missing there is purpose. And I'm going to say it a couple of other ways. One of the things that helped me is it was no longer about me. And I'm not perfect on this now. It wasn't about me, my vanity, me needing to be famous or powerful or prestigious. I made it about other people. And for me now, it's about the audiences I serve. It's about the men I serve. It's about the movement. It's about helping people build and live legendary lives. So it's about purpose, impact, serving. And so that's one of the first ways. And here's what I'd say: if you don't know your purpose, find it. There's people out there that can help you find it. And it's both an art and a science. And basically, it's a mixture of what you love to do, what you're good at doing, and what you believe the world or the planet needs. And there's a combination of that. So the first thing I would say is discover your purpose. It'll help you find more fulfillment. It'll help you make more impact, and you can do it both in your personal and in life. Um, so the second thing I did is I made me my full-time job. And so from psychologists to coaches to masterminds to accountability partners. And so I wanted the best of the best to help me be my best. And if what I noticed is all great CEOs, all great leaders, all great artists, all great athletes, um, all the people that I looked up to, they all had one thing in common: is they had an amazing network of people who loved and supported them. And the second thing they had is they had people holding them accountable in the form of coaches and mentors. And so at the time, I hired a person called Nancy Vito. I worked with her for 4 or 5 years. She helped me find my purpose. She helped me get the self-confidence to eventually walk away from the financial firm to go build this movement of helping people build legendary lives. So coaches and mentors have been invaluable to me, both paid and unpaid. When I started doing the deep work, when I say deep work, here's what I do. I read between 1 and 2 business books a year. It's not business books. They're business and self-development, business and self-development. The third type of book I read is biographies of people that inspire me and see how they live their lives. But what you'll notice also is they're humans. They all have their warts, their scars, their mistakes, some of them catastrophic mistakes, like just like me. And you realize you're not alone, but it's never too late, and you can come back and you can be known as a legend. So another tactical thing I did is I read every single business self-development. If you look right here behind me, that is my must-read list in life right there. And I would put legendary at the top. So all those books right there are literally the books that helped change my life. And it's not just about reading for reading's sake. It's about reading and applying those things into your life. And you can do it slow. Books like that are meant to be worked. And I'm a firm believer that those who don't read are no better than those who can't. And so, and I don't want to go too granular on the list, but if I had to think the 4 things that really changed my life from A to Z: mentorship and coaching, reading everything I can get my hands on, gratitude practice, both a formal and informal gratitude practice. It is literally, if you just do that one thing, it'll change your life and happiness and peace of mind 10x. And the final thing I would say I would do is meditate. And so meditate for me, I do it between 10 minutes twice a day or 20 minutes once a day. Helps me to be proactive and not reactive. It's not if life happens, it's when. The challenges, the angers, the stress, because I'm in a very, we still are growing companies to this day. And so when I'm stressed or angry or judgmental or feeling a little bit down on myself, getting in my head a little bit, meditation brings me back to the present moment, gets me in a place of proactive, gets me peaceful, gets me better decision making. And it's exercise for your mind and soul. So gratitude, meditation, coaching, and literally reading everything I can get my hands on. If you do those things, and it can be an hour or less, it can be 30 minutes or less. For me, it's about 90 minutes because I add my exercise routine in that too. I've let that during COVID, I've let that fall down, and my trainer is all over me right now. So I actually was at the trainer at early morning. She's just all over me. But for me, because you got to protect your physical fortress as well. But with an hour or less a day, totally taking a deep dive into yourself, you're within the compound effects, just like interest, money, the compound effect kicks in. What your life will look like 365 days from now will be astronomically better and different. And here's the woo woo. This is going to sound a little woo woo, but it's, you know this, Lane. The more you do the deep work, the more you become emotionally solid, mentally solid, spiritually solid. It's kind of crazy. All these negative network and friends and family members, they start disappearing out of your life. And you start filling that gap with impactful, serving minded, abundant, successful, driven people. It's pretty amazing what happens to your network and friends. Like, I'm very discerning now of who I let in my inner circle. Very, very discerning, what I call my internal board of directors. But I'm also quick to let people go when I feel like it's just not in alignment with my core values and principles. So those are the things that I do tactically to help me be better than I was yesterday.
Right on, bro. That's very strong. So, Tommy, before I ask you the last question, let me just see if I understood what you mentioned there to summarize for people, because sometimes this is a hard thing to take into practice. So, you basically used some deep work to identify your purpose, and these four items that you mentioned, um, you said 10x your business and it 100x your relationships. And so that's a good return on investment, right?
It's
And certainly
unbelievable.
something that we would all like. Well, I would buy whatever product you're selling. And what was it, Legendary? Is that the book? That's awesome.
That's, it's
Pretty
got
strong.
all the tools in it that we just talked about for sure, and it makes them
Okay.
simple.
So a summary of that, talk to Tommy about that or look him up on Google, you can find it. So anyway, what you did, those four steps that you did there to 10x your business and 100x your relationships and just personal were, um, you got some good coaching. So I would refer that to really being aware of your associations. And you mentioned not just paid and hired coaching, but also your friends, your networks, your association, and trying to be more intentional about hanging around people and associating with people that
It's
had the
critical,
characteristics you wanted. That was one.
critical, critical.
Critical. So, okay, so audience, listen to that. Be aware of your associations, and if you don't want to, just be aware of that. That's enough said on that. Okay, number
Lane,
two
may I
was,
say something real quick? It's
yeah, go
garbage
ahead.
in, garbage out. Real quickly, if you hang around people that are constantly bitching or constantly blaming others for their problems, or they're envious or jealous or constantly angry, if they're around you all the time, you can't help but being judgmental, being cynical, being angry, blaming others, and that's victimhood, and you're going to be stuck and anchored down the rest of your life. So just be aware of it. You probably don't realize it's happening, but if you look around and people in your around you all the time are that way, it might be, doesn't mean you don't love them, doesn't mean you don't want the best for them, but in order for you to participate in your own rescue and become the person you want to be, you've got to get those people out of your life. It's critical.
So you
Garbage in,
have
garbage
to.
out. Garbage in, garbage out.
So I'm gonna improve on what you said just a little bit there, and I'm gonna say, so in other words, you have to socially isolate yourself from cynical people, and you just have to avoid them like you're avoiding somebody that has COVID virus. Hey, I just have to isolate you, quarantine myself from that attitude, because that attitude will what? It's 100% contagious, and
Totally.
it'll get on you, and then you'll have the disease. Okay, so number one is coaching. You said coaching. I'm going to broaden that out and say intentional about your engagements or your associations. Number two, you said reading, right? And so you're taking that garbage in, garbage out. What are you putting into your mind? And then that's where you intentionally selected some types of books that were very positive and that were encouraging and motivating and were demonstrative of the types of traits that you wanted, like business self-development and that sort of thing. So right, watch what you're inputting, and you were intentionally doing that with reading. And then the third thing was the gratitude practice. And I think I understand that, but can you give me just 30 seconds on what you mean by gratitude practice?
Yeah, so I'll give you two different things that I do every single day of my life. And the first one is it takes time. So, what we're all talking about and everything we just said is we're rewiring ourselves from a place of anger and fear. And what if they figure out I don't know what I'm doing? Or what if they know my deepest desires, to a place of abundance, to a place of success, to a place of love, to a place of peace of mind, all the stuff that we crave, right? Respect, self respect being the biggest one there. So gratitude, it's literally impossible to be angry, overwhelmed, stressed, or judgmental when you're grateful. And so every day I write down between 5 and 7 things that I'm grateful for. And at first, this might seem like an extremely difficult exercise for you, but I can think of 1,000 just sitting here looking at what's around me in this office. So every morning, I not only get up and I write down what I'm grateful for, but here's the ninja trick. So that helps you start your day right. It helps you get a place of what I do have, instead of what I don't have. It gets you in a
I love
place
that.
of thankfulness. It gets you in a place of appreciation. And when you give thankfulness out to the world, that feeling you get back is grace, and it's one of the most beautiful feelings in the whole world. Second thing I do, and this one takes time because it takes awareness, and this is where great coaching can come into play too. But during the day, we all have times we get overwhelmed, that we get stressed, that we get angry, that we find ourselves judging, or we find ourselves maybe comparing with somebody, envy, competition. And when I feel that way and I feel myself getting off the track, I immediately stop, and I do this. I can do it right in front of people now, and they have no idea I'm doing it. When I feel that feeling, I literally take a deep breath and immediately go to something I'm grateful for. And if you do that 5, 6, 7 times during the day, just in seconds, take a deep breath, switch to something you're grateful for, maybe think of a couple of things, man, it will rewire your heart and brain to eventually you're not in that. I mean, you'll just see the world in a completely, you'll start seeing the sky again. You'll start seeing the love again. You'll start seeing the goodness all around you, because you can choose to see the bad in the world or you can choose to see the good in the world. And there's always goodness, love, and learnings in everything, even this COVID situation. And so gratitude literally is it. I would put it at the top 4 things in the world that we need to practice.
Well said. And then the fourth one, Tommy, just to wrap this point up, was your meditation. And for people who haven't meditated before, do you use an application or do you just sit on the ground in a funny posture? What recommend? What would you, if I've never meditated before, would you recommend I start with a book,
Yeah.
or how would you start that?
Yeah, you definitely don't. It's not about going up into the woods in a teepee and getting naked and chanting a bunch of weird stuff. It's not anything like that. It's actually quite the opposite. If I was a beginner and I wanted to know how to meditate, the first thing I would do, there's 2 apps that I would check out, either Headspace or Calm, and in 5 minutes or less, and they're done by certain. So it could be courage, it could be wisdom, it could be health, it could be resolving anger, it could be forgiveness. They're by title, and basically, it's a time to get quiet, inner reflective, and eventually, hopefully, with a practice. Again, all of these things are practices. You don't go to the gym and get fit overnight. Same thing goes with your soul, your mind, and your heart. You're building these muscles and you're rewiring them. So, what meditation does over time, it rewires your brain and your heart to be more proactive, to be more present, to be a better leader, to be someone who can listen deeply to the people that are talking to you without thinking of the next thing to say. And so it's pretty powerful from a sales standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, from a mindset standpoint, and being in front of a situation as opposed to always being reactive. Takes time. Gratitude takes time. Readings takes time. Meditation takes time. Coaching takes time. There is no quick fix in life that's worth having. It takes work. And so if you don't want to do the work and you're okay with where you are in life, so be it. But if you want to change, you got to do the work. And meditation is one of those things. So Calm or Headspace would be where I would go as a beginner.
Right on. And so you implemented those four things, Tommy, at this pivot point in your life, and boy, those are all good things to execute. So hopefully we can do that better. And like you said, this is never a process where you reach the goal. It's a thing that you work on daily, and you have to be committed and dedicated to it. So that's great, Tommy. So one final question, then we'll wrap up here, and let everybody get back to living a legendary life.
Indeed.
What are you excited about in the remaining part of 2020?
I'm super excited. I see, I get the opportunity every single day to talk to people like yourself, Lane. And it's interesting that it's the people that I deal with every single day. They're innovators, they're leaders, they're protectors, they're goal setters, and it's beautiful to watch. Now they don't have it all figured out. Of course, they're coming to me for coaching or mentorship, or I'm going to them for coaching or mentorship, right? And so I'm really excited to see what learnings, what goodness, and what I don't like the new normal, but what does this pivot? 9/11, there was a pivot. This is going to be a pivot. I'm super excited to see what these great human beings that are all around me are going to do. They've all came to me with this one thing. I want to be a solid leader. I want to save my company. I want to do right by my employees, and I want to
Love that.
innovate for the future. 100%. It's not like, oh, I want to, put my head in the sand and take all the money out. And so I'm just really excited. My intention, I don't know if our news and media and politicians are going to let us, because they just seem like they want to scare us and divide us. But we as humans, we have the choice to fix that. And we as humans have the choice to come together and connect. We as humans have the choice to come with compassion, to be leaders, to be innovators, to be business people, and to make this world better than we came into the beginning of this thing. And it's been a time of slow down. It's been a time of reflection, but it's also been time of innovation. So I'm super excited of all the learnings and all the goodness that comes out of this thing. And if we choose to see it, it's there. So I'm super excited about that.
Right on. Tommy, what I love about that, you didn't say that, and you probably are not going to say this, but I'm going to say it for you, is everything you mentioned and what you were excited about is a consistent story from that pivot point 36 years ago, where you started to get this new sense of living a life of significance, living a life by choice and goodness, instead of living a life in pursuit of materialistic success or success defined by someone else. So, however many years that was, 8 years ago, when you changed your goal and you started focusing on service and helping other people, and life of significance, is when you experience that 10x and 100x and probably thousands of x, probably underselling a little bit. Tommy, this has been inspiring for me. I always tell Tommy, I say, man, I always hang up my conversation with Tommy by saying much fraternal love. And this has been such an inspiration. If somebody was to get, because my audience that would watch this may not be familiar with you, Tommy, how would they get a hold of you, or how would they get the resources that you're offering, or how would they contact you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
If you want, right now we're giving away 2 free chapters of the book during this COVID time, about financial confidence and freedom. I think so many people are struggling with that right now because it's a tough time. The second thing we're giving away is the Mastering Your Mindset chapter, a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. If you go to TommyBreedlove.com, I'm going to spell this out because I have a Southern accent. Some people can't understand me. TommyBreedlove.com/gifts. That's GIFTS gifts. We'll give you my purpose statement. We'll give you a purpose formula. They're all one-page documents, so you can start figuring out your purpose. We'll also give you my personal mission statement, what we talked about, your core values and principles today, so you can build your own. But just as important is we'll give you the 2 free chapters of the book. I'm all over social media now, at Tommy Breedlove, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. We're about to start doing some coaching, some free coaching on our Facebook page, our business page here, 10:30 Eastern every Tuesday, coming up soon. So we're going to be talking about purpose. We're going to be conquering our time, mindset, business, money, success, all things great, including relationship stuff too. So I'm excited about that too. But you can find me anywhere at Tommy Breedlove. Go to TommyBreedlove.com/gifts, and we'll give you 2 free chapters of the book, man. And here's what I want to say, brother. The whole part of this, I don't know if you're like this, Lane, is for me and my community, I just don't want to look back with regrets. And the way I lived my first 36 years, it would have just been one big regret. Not chasing my dream, not showing up in the arena and chasing a career that I really wanted to do, because I was in a career that someone else told me was important. Not spending that much time with my friends and family. I just not traveling to the places I want to see, not doing the things I want to do because I was living in fear of what everybody else wanted for me. And for me, I think to build and live a legendary life and a life of significance and purpose is to work your ass off to die without regrets. And I'm working my ass off to do just that, brother.
I love it, Tommy. Well, this is, like I said, been very inspirational for me. I hope it is for your audiences and my audiences I'm going to share this with. And this is what I know. I'm going to speak for Tommy and myself now. And I'll say our gift to you is content. Our gift to you is these decisions and wisdom points that we've learned by the College of Hard Knocks. Our ask for you is this, is that you take these things we've talked about and apply them to your life, so that when whatever area of the globe you live in, or whatever area, you can make a life of significance. And hey, if this has been valuable to you, share it with somebody else, and you teach them what hopefully we've shared with you and Tommy shared with us today. Tommy, much fraternal love. Wish you the very best. I pray for your strength and health for you and all of our audience. And I've certainly enjoyed this short conversation today. You have a great day, and our audience as well.
Thank you, my brother. Have a great one.